In Doctor Who's Empire of Death, it was revealed that Sutekh had been clinging onto the TARDIS and that every time it landed on a planet at a different location, Sutekh would leave behind a Susan. This was to spread Sutekh's gift of death, which we saw in, well, Empire of Death and The Legend of Ruby Sunday. We also found out in Empire of Death that every single time the TARDIS landed on Earth, it would rebirth Susan. The idea of Susan would become stronger, the perception filter would kind of wear off, and they'd become more known. And during the explanation of all of this, and Sutekh clinging onto the TARDIS and the TARDIS landing on different worlds, we see a picture of the parallel world, Pete's world. This is from the Series 4 finale, as seen on screen, when the Doctor returns the Metacrisis Doctor and Rose to Pete's world. Of course, this isn't the only time that the TARDIS lands on Pete's world, but this is the shot that was shown in that episode. But it did get me wondering, and I've been wondering this for a pretty long time now. If a Susan gets, spawned in every single time the TARDIS lands because of Sutekh, does that mean there is a Susan on Pete's world? And how strong is that Susan? Because technically the TARDIS landed there twice. When you're talking about this, there's a couple of ways and thoughts just around it in general. Yes, Sutekh might have placed a Susan triad in Pete's world, but that Susan didn't spread the gift of death because Pete's world is closed off. Meaning that a Susan triad can't spread the gift of death. She's just a regular person there. But if we're talking about Pete's world being closed off, does that mean that Sutekh can't put a Susan there? But as we see Pete's world in that episode, you'd assume that at least Sutekh did try and put a Susan down there. So let's say a Susan triad was put there and Sutekh can spread the gift of death there, that somehow that is plausible. Does that mean that Rose's world, Pete's world, was destroyed? And was the Doctor able to reverse this? Was the Doctor able to reverse the destruction that Sutekh brought to Pete's world? Or because, Pete's world is kind of closed off, right? It's a little bit difficult. Was the Doctor not able to reverse this? And is Rose Tyler and the Metacrisis Doctor and everyone else there dead? A lot of people talk about plot holes with the Empire of Death and the idea of Sutekh clinging onto the TARDIS basically since the 4th Doctor, things like the Time War, all these other events in the Doctor's history, the episode The Big Bang, the TARDIS literally being a sun by that point, Sutekh still clinging on, dead, whatever. People point out all these plot holes, but I personally think this parallel universe one is arguably the biggest plot hole in this entire episode. I don't care what other people have to say. This is the biggest plot hole from this episode. We really don't know a whole lot about the process of Sutekh clinging onto the TARDIS and placing down a Susan at every location the TARDIS lands. So, arguably, we have no idea and probably will never know if a Susan triad was put on Pete's world. We have no idea if Pete's world was destroyed by, Susan Triad and Sutekh. But because of that one shot of the TARDIS being on that beach in Pete's world, we can assume that a Susan Triad was put there. Otherwise, it would be pretty bizarre to put that shot in the episode. And you'd really hope they intentionally chose that shot of the TARDIS from that very important episode, from that very important scene, and put it in that episode for those reasons, and didn't just pick a random shot of the TARDIS, put it in, and didn't think about the connotations of that or what that could lead to. It's an incredibly interesting idea and premise, because either Pete's world got completely dusted and then it got reverted, or it got completely dusted, it did not get reverted, or there just isn't a Susan Triad there, or there is a Susan Triad there, but they can't do anything. I'm assuming there is a Susan Triad there that does something because we see the shot. I might be in denial. But it would feel so bizarre for Pete's world to be dusted like that and never come back, right? So I'm assuming if anything of this is true, if this theory holds any weight, which I think, there is something about it, is yes, there was a Susan Triad on Pete's world that probably did dust Pete's world, but then the Doctor reverting, what Sutekh did with the gift of death meant that he also reverted what happened in Pete's world. You'd assume that's probably the most likely outcome, otherwise it's very bizarre to off-screen kill off Jackie Tyler, Rose Tyler, and the Metacrisis Doctor. I don't know, I think this is a really fun theory, and this is a thing that probably since the broadcast of the episode, I've been thinking about. We see the shot there. We know that every time the TARDIS lands, a Susan is, magically appears, spawns in, is born. Sutekh manages to do that. But, we don't get any answers, and we probably never will. So, this is where fan theories come in. But everybody watching, Please feel free to comment down below your thoughts on this, your own theories, your own ideas. I'd love to hear them. Once you're done there, you might as well smash that subscribe button and hit that notification bell so you don't miss a future video. But I've been your Samuel, and I'll catch you in the next Doctor Who related video.